Good morning. I left off with you saying that I wanted to continue my discussion of grief and loss because there is a lot more to it than what I said in my first video. So I kind of outlined some things I wanted to talk about and how they have been occurring in my life and how I've managed to get through them as best I can. So, above all else, just be okay with where you're at. I can't stress that enough because the more you fight a current state of mind you're in, the worse you're going to make it. I only know this from personal experience. If I hold on to something and I'm trying to figure out ways around it or to solve it or to think I could take power over it, it only makes it worse. And for me, it only increases my emotional pain. And the more emotional pain I have, the more difficulty I have to function as a human being. So I really have to work daily on being okay with where I'm at in regards to, my father, my mom, my family. And go into it knowing that if I do, when I do visit my parents, that if I'm sad after that visitation, that is very normal. And that I'm not going to beat myself up. My girlfriend Lisa told me, don't ever be afraid to reach out. Don't ever be afraid to express those feelings. Because, part of my problem was, even though I am who I am, I'm the professional, that I am in behavioral health, even I can stuff emotions or think that I have, some control over them. Thankfully, I was smart enough to get a therapist that I see, twice a month for the last 4 years. So she has walked me through pretty much all of this. And she has, allowed me to say it's okay if you're a mess right now. It's okay. That is part of the grieving process. Because not only am I grieving the loss of my dad and the potential loss of my mother, well, eventual loss of my mother anyway, I'm also grieving the loss of my family. And, these last 4 years have been really challenging for me, because especially around the holidays. And, I have to tell you, for someone who grew up always knowing that he'd spend the holiday with his biological family, it's pretty humiliating. I mean, it's pretty humbling when you look around and you're by yourself on Christmas. It sucks. It really does suck without your family. I mean, I've spent Christmases with other people, but it just wasn't the same. I mean, and it still does cause pain to this day. Granted, it's been 4 years, so the pain has lessened somewhat and doesn't last as long. So in that respect, I am getting into acceptance more often not than any other aspect of bereavement. However, I can't stress this enough. I will be in acceptance, for a day or two, but something could happen to bring me right back to it. And again, I have to be okay with that process, because deep down I know, that acceptance could be fleeting just because of the situation. Now, I have no problem accepting other things that I'm powerless over, but, unfortunately, when it comes to family or, losing a loved one to a protracted illness, it is very difficult to stay in acceptance. So with that being said, right along with that difficulty, jumping in and out of being accepting and okay with everything as it is, I always have to be aware of anger and hopelessness. To me, they go hand in hand, because if I'm angry at a situation that I have no control over, I want to express that anger, but I know I can't. So what do I do? I stuff it. That turns into depression, which then turns into hopelessness, which then feeds on itself, and I get into a negative pattern of thinking and even behaving, and start withdrawing from people, and then the suicidal thoughts start. And that's just my normal MO for my depression. Thankfully, I have not had a suicide attempt yet, and I only came close once, but and that was very early on in my recovery, and it was an impulsive move, and thank God I spit all the pills out that I took. It just so happens a few years later, when I was getting really into recovery in AA, I came across a fellow recovering alcoholic who told me she tried to overdose on the same medication that I almost overdosed on. And she said she woke up and she was pissed off she woke up. But so anyway, that's as close as I've ever gotten. But, let's just say I've thought about it quite a bit, and when I do get those thoughts, it concerns me because, if the right amount of stressors come into play, you never know. Your judgment is impaired, your impulsivity is impaired, and you just get a bad case of the fuckets, and you're just like, no one, everyone's better off without me. I know that's a crazy thought, but, when you're going through all of this in your life, with so much loss and so much perceived rejection on my part, it hurts. But at the same point, what also, gets me out of that depressive state is owning my responsibility in all of this, because I did have a part in it, and I believe I've shared it before. But I'm not going to go into it in painful detail. But let's just say, I'm responsible for, spreading out a lot of verbal poison and a lot of unintentional emotional pain on people, whether that pain's in the form of anger, depression, whatever. I think that's definitely what saves me from feeling a victim, because it really is easy to slip into that mode, especially when you're losing a family member. You get into this weird mindset of just like, possible feeling like you're victimized, or feeling that you're, feeling that you're alone, feeling that no one understands. And so what has helped pull me out of that state of mind is the healing laughter. I cannot express the importance of having some levity, some laughter in my life on a daily basis. It's disarms everything. It just makes everything a lot lighter and a lot less serious than it has to be. And whether or not that humor is, you bring that sense of humor to work or wherever you live, or or just your home life, or within your relationships, or just listen to other people and just enjoy the humor they're sharing. I've said it before. It's like, if you go into a situation with an open mind and an open heart, and you can set aside your sadness and your grief for at least a few hours, it definitely makes the day go by much better. So to recap, be okay with where you're at. Know that you're going to go through periods of acceptance, periods of anger, periods of depression, hopelessness, and even if you have fleeting suicidal thoughts, do not get that concerned, because it is very normal. You could have no idea that you want to commit suicide. You don't even have a family history, but it just may happen, so just don't freak out. Now, if those thoughts get start coming fast and furious, I honestly recommend that you seek some professional support, and whatever that means to you. Psychotherapy is one. Pastoral care is another through your church. Just reaching out to people, people that have been through similar situations that you've been. That way you can have someone to commiserate with, and you can have someone to laugh about just the crazy shit that your ill parent is doing, to again take the seriousness out of it and the pain out of it. What I'm conveying to you is not easy. And what I'm conveying to you, takes time. I mean, it has taken me, all of this time since my dad was diagnosed to this very day, to be where I'm at, and, and for me to just say I can be in acceptance, for one day, possibly two at the most, and other times I'm just in between hot mess and functioning. Not as a hot mess as I was, but, I'm okay with that. And if I'm okay with that, I know things will eventually get better. So, again, if you have any questions, please feel free to email me at my Gmail account, smcnamara69@gmail.com. Alrighty, so I did write down some topics, kind of give us an idea of where we're headed. So the next two topics, the next video I will talk about is depression, and the next talk after that will be on anxiety and panic attacks. So I will see you soon. Thanks so much. Bye-bye.